Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be my review of Writing and Rhetoric Level 2. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name's Nicole. I'm a homeschooling mom with 2 kids at home. I have a daughter who's 10, just finishing up her 5th grade year, and my son is 4, doing a little bit of preschool work. All right guys, so my daughter just finished up Writing and Rhetoric Level 2, which is technically Narrative 1. So she did Level 1 and Level 2 for her 5th grade year. And if you see on the back, it has Book 1 and Book 2 are suggested for grades 3 to 4. Now, a couple of things on this. First, my daughter is a young 5th grader. She is 6 weeks from the cutoff where she would have been a rising 5th grader versus a rising 6th grader. So I felt like it was an appropriate age. I could have put her in it a little sooner. I definitely think there's a lot of flexibility in when you put your child in this program. For example, if you find this program later, don't hesitate to put them in. There's a YouTuber, her name is Nikki with Homeschool Knockouts. She started this program with her younger son, loved it so much. She had her older son, who I believe is in middle school, do it, and they kind of went through it a little quicker, kind of skipped some of the grammar and other parts. So I would definitely recommend starting this at level 1. It just gives you that foundation that you need and work your way up, but don't get too hung up on these grades. So for my review on this was a very seamless, easy progression from Writing and Rhetoric Level 1. It moved up perfectly. Everything increased in the way that you would expect. I could tell these were both designed for the same year. So the things that were different about this is the intro part that you read to your child is a little longer. Some of the stories that they narrate are a little longer. Some are the same. They add in written narration. I'll go into the details of the written narration when I go through this with you. So this book was focusing on learning what a narrative is, a fairy tale, a fable, history, a myth, a parable. So you spend a good time figuring out what story is in what category. Then you're really going to focus on dialogue. You're going to focus on amplification with dialogue. You're going to focus on amplification with description. Then you're going to end the book with working on the middle part of a story. So they'll give you a beginning, an end, and then in the middle, you have to make your own middle of the story using a conflict, using description, and using dialogue. So there's no summaries in this like there was in the first book. So amplification means you're making something more, you're adding more detail to it, you're amplifying it. So I can tell you without a doubt that my daughter's writing has vastly improved. And it is mostly in part to this. I feel like there's maybe a few other items, but this is 100% why. And how her writing has improved is she is so descriptive in her writing. She uses dialogue in other subjects, so not just in Writing and Rhetoric. I can picture what she's trying to portray in her writing, which I think is the goal. And there are a lot of parts to this that aren't strictly writing, like you have a part called copiousness, where you're including grammar and you're playing with grammar and different ways to use it. You also have sentence play, you have dictation, and you have copywork and several other things that you wouldn't think would directly relate to how they're writing, but all of those parts is what encompasses the beauty of this program. Okay, so let me go through and show you a lesson. I've tagged one I thought would be a good example. So here's an example of the beginning of a lesson. Now here's the part where you're going to read to the child. You see how it's a little longer than it was if you're familiar with number 1. You have almost 3 pages. That's just reading to your child to introduce the topic. Then you have the story, Athena and Arachne. So you have, this story is almost 2 pages. So that is a little longer. Now some of the stories in here are just half a page like they were before. Some of the intro is, but it will progressively get longer. Okay, and then you're gonna do what you would traditionally do. You would do your oral narration. Then you go into written narration, which you have 2 parts. The first one is you're gonna put the events in order below using B for beginning, M for middle, and E for end. And then the second part of the written narration is you're going to write your own sentence to tell what happens at the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and the end of the story. So that is new from level 1. But then the rest of this is all the same. You're going to go to talk about it, where you're going to discuss the story that you just read. You're going to go deeper. This is where you're looking for the moral. You want your kids to understand what the story is trying to portray. There is sometimes some writing and go deeper. Sometimes it's just questions or circling an answer. before I move, then you have copywork and dictation. I will tell you, I don't use the copywork and dictation in this curriculum simply because I use it in her spelling using the modern speller. So it seems kind of redundant, but okay. So then you always have sentence play and copiousness. Sentence play is what it says, sentence play. You're changing sentences around. Sometimes you're moving the predicate or the subject, or you're taking a sentence and you're having to change it in different ways and change it 2, 3, 4 different times. So it's showing the student how one sentence can be changed to mean the same or similar thing in many different ways. So for example, for this one, dropping her disguise, the goddess stood bold and bright before Arachne. Notice how 2 things are happening at the same time in this sentence. What are those 2 things? Using this sentence as a model, tell us what could have happened if Athena had dropped a bowling ball on her foot. Tell us what could have happened if Athena had kicked a field goal. Tell us what could have happened if Athena had eaten a bowl of broccoli. So that sort of stuff. And it is different every time. Now, copiousness. This is grammar, but it is really well done grammar. It's grammar for writing. Like a lot of times they'll do what they're doing here. She has to go through and name the noun and verbs, and then she has to replace the noun and verbs, in this case, with synonyms. And they have to do it several different times. Here, add adjective to describe the nouns, change the subject. So it is grammar, but it's grammar in writing, showing them how to change the words and move them around to make them more descriptive. This particular lesson discusses dialogue, and then you have amplification for description. So it goes in that fashion. It always ends with the writing. Sometimes there's 2 writing projects, sometimes there's just 1. And then you'll always end with the speak it section. This is your rhetoric. Now, I don't always do this. It is geared for a classroom and a lot of them can't be done, but I will have my daughter read her final paper to me, and we will do the activity if we can, but we don't always do it. So this book has 10 lessons, whereas the first book had 14. So together they make the first year and they would be 24 lessons. Now you could do 3 books in a year. Absolutely. I only did 2 because we were doing 1 week of writing and rhetoric, and the next week we would do Mostas Press. They have great readings in there and also creative writing prompts, but you could definitely do 3 if you wanted. We take 1 week per lesson generally, but like I said, we don't do the copywork or dictation because we do that elsewhere, and we don't always do the rhetoric part. So the first day we'll introduce it, we'll go over the story, she'll narrate it, doing it orally and written, we'll talk about it, and sometimes we'll go deeper, or else we'll just break up the rest. I generally have her write only on the day, like that this writing in this lesson was amplification with description, or if it was dialogue or whatever it is, I'll just have her write only on one day, and I'll break the rest of it over 3 days, which can easily be done. Now, this is 100%, okay, I don't want to say 100%, but really you need the parent. It's not very independent. You do a lot of the stuff together. So if you do need a writing curriculum that's more independent, I would say at least on level 1 and 2, that would not be this curriculum. But this curriculum is awesome. It doesn't take that long, and it really, the proof is in the pudding. My daughter has really not only went from a reluctant writer, at least reluctant in writing when she had to write in a curriculum. If she was writing in her journal or writing freely, that was different. But she willingly writes in this. She doesn't fight me on it, and she enjoys it. And her writing has gone so far. Like these pages, sometimes they have several pages. Let me show you one. So like, for example, you see all this room that they give? She will fill up that entire thing. They often will give an extra page too, and she will just fill it up really quickly. But it did take her time. So just know also that every student is different. Every writing level is different. But I can see not only in the length that she writes, but the quality of how she writes, that this program is working really well for her. So we are planning on moving on next year to the next levels. I talk about that in my language art curriculum picks. And the only reason that I didn't start level 3, because we did finish this about a month ago, is the first part of level 3 I've heard is review. So I wanted to just start fresh in the new year with it. Now, I will say I am a secular homeschooler, and this does have some religious content in it. If you've been around, you know that I use any type of curriculum, religious or not. I just use what works for my child, and I don't mind religious curriculum coming into my home. We are secular, however, I have a whole side of the family that is religious. My daughter's around it. She understands different religions. I like her to be aware. And so it's not something that I would steer away from for that point. And honestly, level 1 really didn't have anything in it. Level 2 did have some, but it was more, the parables would be stories from the Bible. So you had prodigal son was one of the stories or one of the parables that was used, and it just cited the scripture that it was underneath it, where to find it, but it was citing it in the same way that they cited the Greek myth. So it's not, I saw a Reddit comment that actually explained it well. It's not preaching to you, it's just using them as stories and teaching tools. So everyone has different comfort levels on what they're comfortable bringing into their homeschool. I believe that Nikki from Homeschool Knockouts does a flip through of most of the levels of this if you want to look. But to me personally, this was just fine. Level 3 I've reviewed, and that seemed just fine to me too. So anyways, love this curriculum. Couldn't say enough good things about it. It's probably my #1 favorite curriculum so far. Yeah, I would have to say it's my #1. So, and it's one that my daughter doesn't balk at. And that to me really is a winner. Even if I despised it, if she was learning to write and she liked it, I would still probably do it. So, all right, guys, if you have any questions about level 1 or level 2, please let me know. I did do a review on level 1. If you want to check that out, that might help watching that if you have never done writing and rhetoric, if you want to know a base of the curriculum. This does have 12 levels that theoretically go up to level 8, 9. So we could theoretically use this through a lot of high school. I don't know how far we'll go in it, but there is a lot in this. All right, guys, if you have any questions, let me know. If not, I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.